Alright, so to bring you guys back up to speed, I'm currently in the process of rebuilding my old GQ Patrol from the ground up, and in the process I'm converting it from a leaf sprung chassis to a coil sprung chassis. Our new coil chassis is pretty much ready to go, so we're going to make a start on the cab. We're finally going to give this car the makeover that it deserves, but first we've got to do a fair bit of work to the panels, which includes fixing holes and dents. We're also got to install a couple more bits and modify the exhaust, and then hopefully we can get this body shifted onto the new cab. First, I have to get some new panels for the Patrol. A couple of my ones were dented and simply won't fit the new cab and chassis. Lucky for me, Dan had a neighbour who was wrecking their old Ford Maverick, and this is the same car that Dan got his TB42 cylinder head from. So this Ford Maverick will go on to live in both of our GQs. I also got myself a new bonnet as mine had a big dent in the front of it. So with all these new panels now collected, we could give them a wash up and start to fix these holes.
So for the last 2 years, Liam and I have been running the Just Race parts gauges on our four-wheel drives to better monitor our engines. From water temp, EGTs, boost and more, these gauges have been fantastic and have never let us down. Not only do they look awesome in a car, they actually serve a really important purpose. And recently, GRP introduced their new 52mm edge gauge with a feature no other gauge I know of has. It's called Color Pre-Warn. Typically with most gauges, you can set a beep warning so when you exceed a certain threshold, it will go off. Now, a lot of people either end up setting this threshold really high so it's not annoyingly beeping at you all the time, or they turn it completely off like what I did. And now, this is not ideal because it's when you're out doing these tough tracks that you got so much going on your mind, the last thing you're thinking of is the values on the gauge. And I've been guilty of this many times. But with Color Pre-Warn, your peripheral vision sees the color change right up until you hit your set threshold. And this is all customizable. So you know without even looking at your gauge values if you've got some room to play with or if you should back right off. I've found it extremely useful, and it's just another reason I love using these gauges. And with JRP's V2 and V3 EGT probes, these gauges are ultra responsive, accurate and reliable. They're an Aussie company making some awesome gauges, so if you're in the market for some or looking for an upgrade, definitely go check out Just Race Parts.
Alright, so at the moment I'm pretty much just sorting out any holes that I want patched prior to paintwork. So things like the mirrors, as many of you know, I just stuck them in the factory location, but I didn't like how far they sat down the door. So all the mirror holes are getting patched and shifted up. There's also a few holes on the car, on the pillar where some aerials mounted. Also like a hole where the previous owner had run some cables through the back of the cab. Things like that we're just patching up. So, and pretty much the process for that is just going around with the MIG as well as some little bits of plate, and pretty much just using this as like a backing. So any of you that have welded, you'll know it's pretty hard when you're using such thin metal as this to go around and just patch a hole that's, you know, like fairly big, like some of them near like sort of 5-cent piece size. So pretty much just using bits of steel for the backside to sort of give it a bit of something, bit of strength, and that's something to actually weld onto, going around and patching them up. And although I'm trying to get them pretty smooth, this is obviously going to get bogged before paint and stuff like that, just to get obviously a nice finish. So pretty much end result is, as you can see over here on the doors, on this door here, I've just filled it in and just been grinding it back just to get it pretty smooth. It's not going to be perfect, but yeah, we'll get it pretty close. So yeah, a bit of welding going on, but it's good, so we'll keep going.
Gonna need a fair bit of grinding and a fair bit of bog, but it'll work.
All right, so as you saw there, we've got a bit of the prep work done on the panels, filling up holes and stuff. Now, this is where it comes to a bit of a change in the plan. Now, originally, I was thinking I would be respraying this at home. I was just gonna sort of do my best sort of job and try to set up something. But we've had I've been fortunate enough to talk with someone that's a painter who's going to be sort of helping out with the spraying process of this anyway, and they recommended that for the effort I'm going to and the length I'm going to with this project, for all the hassle and to get the best result, to spray this car in a booth. And me not being an expert painter, obviously I'm going to take the advice of someone that knows what they're doing. So because of this change in process, pretty much what it means and what I've been recommended is the easiest way to now move this thing around and to sort of make just everything the most streamlined as possible. We're actually going to be throwing the cab onto the new chassis prior to painting. Now, obviously we're not up to that stage yet. There's still things we have to do here in the car. I still want to pull out a few things. I've got to cut a tiny few little things and give it a good clean over. But essentially the idea is that if I can get this cab on the new chassis, wire up the engine and everything, get it all running so that I can drive it and move it around, then I'll be able to drive this thing onto a trailer it down to where the spray booth is, get it sprayed with all the panels still off the car as well, so spray the cab and panel separately. Then once it's painted the next day, we can bring it back, bolt it together, and essentially the whole cab of the car is pretty much complete. So that's pretty much the thought process. Now, I can go into more reasons as to why we ended up going with this route, but we'll save that for another time. So yeah, pretty much, because that's the process, now we're gonna start attacking a few things here in the cab. Now, a few things I gotta do first as well. I've got to cut out the inner guards here to create the void for the shock towers to rise up into. So on a leaf spring cab, they still have this sort of shock tower sort of mold, but it's filled in the bottom, in the inner guard. It just doesn't get cut out from factory. So I just got to cut that out, probably do it with the snips. And then there's a few things also in the cab that I want to pull out now before we drop it on that'll make it easy to just wire up. So there's a few things like brake lines on this side that need to be transferred over to the driver's side, vacuum lines and a few other little bits and pieces that are going to be getting moved anyway due to other things that are coming here. So we're going to start pulling a few things out. May also have to attack the steering column, but that will be a bit of a discover as we go job because I'm not 100% sure if I've got the right bits for it, but we'll see.
Whilst I had good accessibility in the engine bay, I also took the opportunity to fix a few more holes that were in the cab. It turns out that being able to fix rust and the little holes here and there is a really useful skill, and it's actually pretty easy if you've got the right tools.
So another thing, my sills are in fairly good condition in terms of here. It's just this little lip at the bottom that's slightly bent, but I'm hoping I'll just be able to bend it back with the multi-grips gently.
I then needed to take the steering column out because the steering shaft is actually a different length between the leaf sprung patrol and the coil sprung.
Get the pullers out.
Now, I did get a new steering shaft in preparation, but it was out of a GU and I didn't know that it wasn't going to fit into the GQ column. So with this little hiccup, we packed up for the day and then made a trip down to our old faithful Ford Maverick to pull the steering shaft out of that. Now this steering column was a little bit rusty and nowhere near as clean as mine, and not to mention I'd have to swap the key rail, which can be a little bit tricky. So instead I figured I'd be able to pull out the steering shaft and actually swap it into my clean steering column.
How good's that?
That's sweet. See, you know what's funny about that? We could have left that in the car, undone the circlip and just
pulled it out.
ripped it out.
Coil converted steering rack.
I could then install it back into the car and it was ready to attach to the new steering box.
All right, so here I have, oh, I'm losing clutch fluid everywhere. Here is the clutch master cylinder that I just pulled out of the car. Now you're probably wondering why I'm pulling it out, and that is because we've got this. So that same wreck that we got the guards off, I've managed to pull out a few bits, so like the steering column. I also grabbed while I was there, this is a vacuum assisted clutch master cylinder, and essentially this just makes your clutch way easier to push in. So it just connects to the vacuum system that runs like your brake booster, and it should make the clutch heaps lighter. So I figured I'd be stupid not to grab it while we were there, bolt straight in. So we'll fit this up and should be happy days.
I was also able to redo all the hard lines in the car with the ones that I pulled off the Ford Maverick wreck, and this just meant that it was easy and everything plumbed up correctly.
I'm interested to see how different the clutch feels. If it's like, it'll be cool if it like it's just light as all of a sudden. You know how as well, what I heard the other day, which I never really thought about, you know how these clips are sometimes shit, these ones? The idea is, as the hose, it's like when you use a hose clamp, you tighten it up, right? And then that's as tight as it gets. And when the hose shrinks, the hose clamp comes loose. But because these are sprung, as the hose might shrink and degrade, this keeps tension because it continues to shrink. So that's the idea behind them. That's why they use them all on like radiator stuff, because as the hoses wear down and get squashed, it continues, now it doesn't loosen off, whereas a hose clamp will. All right, so I've just swapped over the clutch master cylinder, so the vacuum one is now in and the lines are plumbed up, which is sweet. We're gonna pull out a few more things now that won't be needed. First up, I've got to change the brake lines or the hard lines that run from the brake master cylinder down to where like the little, like the split little junctions are down on the chassis. These ones won't line up with the ones on the Coil chassis, and it also has a line that runs right across the engine bay because on the Leafy chassis, the front brakes come from the passenger side, whereas on the Coil, they come down from the driver's side. So I pulled these off that same wreck, and these will bolt straight in and go straight up to our little junctions down there, so make it all very easy. All right, so I'm gonna start pulling out some of the vacuum related stuff now. Because of the airbox that I plan to have in this car, the vacuum canister, that's gonna have to get relocated. So all this sort of vacuum hose and stuff's gotta come out and get moved somewhere else. So I'm just gonna pull it all out for now so it's out of the way. All right, so while I'm taking stuff off, I'm also going to be taking off this little hose section and heatsink for the power steering. I'm going to be using an external or an aftermarket power steering cooler. It's just like an oil cooler. I'll show you when I get it. Just like a fin, like heatsink type one. But essentially it'll help eliminate, rather than having hose running all the way from the power steering pump across up here and out to the front here, it'll just go straight into the little cooler down on the chassis and should eliminate all of this. And that will be good because we might need to clear this space for future modifications that sit on the front here. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, so just unbolt that and twist that off. All right, so I've just finished taking the vacuum stuff and any other of the last little brake lines, power steering lines, that sort of thing out of the cab. So I'm pretty sure this is like 99% ready to go. I just want to give it a final clean over while it's sort of easy to access, which me and Paddy will do. In the meantime, I was just going over the chassis, new chassis, and making sure that everything, like I hadn't really forgotten anything before we dropped the cab on. And I thought to myself, oh, I probably should put the exhaust in, like just the first section, because it's easy to get to while the cab's off. And I was hoping that this would just bolt straight in, even though it's come from the Leafy chassis. And while it does, you know, fit, sort of, it does contact the chassis, the inside, like literally ever so slightly, and it's gonna create an exhaust rattle and be annoying, and especially because the engine obviously moves as well. So I'm gonna have to address that. So I've just taken it back out. I'm just gonna quickly put a cut in it, and then sort of mount it back up again, and I'm just gonna angle the exhaust ever so slightly more up and out, just to get it away from the chassis. The rest of the exhaust will fit up, we did check, so that's sweet, that'll just bolt straight in. But yeah, I'm just gonna have to modify this bit slightly. So I'm just gonna go quickly chuck it on the drop saw, cut it, bring it back in, and we'll just quickly modify it slightly. Nothing crazy, but just to make sure it doesn't vibrate or clash.
Yeah, it looks pretty good there. It's good, decent gap there.
Good clearance underneath.
Still good clearance underneath. I reckon, yeah, pretty good.
All right, so I've just welded up the exhaust there. It's only a very, very slight angle, but it makes all the difference. So just put some paint on it, let that dry. In the meantime, Paddy and I are just gonna go over and do a bit of a clean up of the cab, feel the bits I haven't done yet. So I wanna do like all inside the door seals and all that, obviously because this will be getting resprayed inside here. So we'll go through there, give it a good clean, probably do a bit of the interior as well as a little bit of an exterior, just so it's all pretty much clean while it's all accessible, and then we'll pick it up and swing it over.
There are a few other little areas that needed some attention, so I got the wire wheel out and was able to clean them up.
All right, so just before we swing the body over, I'll just show you, I have picked up new body mounts. Whenever you're doing something like this, always new body mounts, especially considering those ones have been in the car for 20 something years, 26 years or something like that. Yeah, they're all squashed and destroyed. So definitely new body mounts. So I just got these from Patrol Apart, and they pretty much just go, there's 3 different types, and it says on your invoice when you buy them, it'll say which ones go where, but you just stick them in, and hopefully we can get them all lined up sweet, and they should bolt up nicely to the new cab.
So with the body now cleaned up and detached from anything connecting it to the chassis, we were now ready to swing it across. I then referred to the Nissan service manual so I could find the correct lifting procedure and points for the cab, and we also made up a frame that would allow it to be lifted evenly off the chassis.
Yeah, a little bit more. And then, oh, stop.
Maybe like that.
We just lifted the cab up. I still got to get to a bit in the back that I couldn't get to while I was on the chassis to weld it. Yeah, that's pretty even. That's good. Yeah. All right, you'll be able to swing it out. All right, just go down slowly. Yeah, that should be it. We'll quickly do this little weld job and then we can get it back up in the air and then onto the new chassis.
So if anyone needs a Leafy chassis.
Or leaf spring diffs or suspension or steering box, you know where to find us. Because all I have to do, lift up that, just roll that underneath and then just sit it on. All right, can you go up slowly there?
Yeah, keep going.
All right, now I might get you to stay in the tractor while I do it. Got a bit wet on the inside. All right, you might just have to bring it back down to let it dry. All right, go up. Come on, the jib. Hold there.
This is the moment I'd been waiting for. It was time to join the body and the chassis together and finally have myself a coil cab patrol.
All right, the whole thing's got to come across. So if you just turn right more. Yep, stop there. Stop, stop. All right, now hold it there. Now I can come down slowly there. Yeah, just go slow like that, that's fine. Yeah, good work. Yeah, bring it down slow. Whoa, hold there.
Just watch my side, it's really tight.
Yeah. Yeah, a little bit more, just slowly. Yeah, that's good. Whoa, hold there. Nah, I think it was just something here. I just want to get the front down. All right, come down slow. And just stop there for a second. That one's sweet. That one's sweet. That one's pretty much sweet. I reckon that's probably it. We'll just have to shiv it by hand. I just want to make sure. Yeah, that's all good. Gear sticks are in. That's all sweet. That's all sweet. Brake line's out of the way. Shock towers up in. Yep. Plenty of room. I reckon that's it. It is a coil cab patrol. Everything fits as it should. Like there's no, the bodies are the same, it lines up. It just works. Looks like a ute again.
It is weird seeing your leafy cab on a coil chassis.
I know, it's like, where do you leash things? Look at all that clearance.
I know. I'm keen to put a guard on and see how the poke
How much
is.
poke? Pretty much like that. That's pretty good. So good. Coil. Yeah, it's gonna be a good ute. As soon as you do that, it makes it look like so not far away from being drivable.
Yeah.
A few bits in the engine bay, plumb stuff up again.
Actually all coming together.
It actually is. Remember when this was just, remember when it was just a pipe dream?
I know.
Like, oh yeah, we'll coil it one day, that'll be sick.
Now it's like legit. It looks so nice in like a spray painted chassis.
Oh, it does.
It looks so.
Wait till the cab's painted.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna look unbelievable.
Because it's always, you look under and it looks all brand new. It's just like.
I'm actually gonna hate taking it off-road just because of that. Sick, I can't wait to get it started.
Now you're gonna be like just so eager to get this done.
Oh yeah. Like we're definitely more than halfway now. The funny thing is too, because like, it's funny that like people will see it and be like, oh, you got your car resprayed and that's it. It's like, no,
Yeah.
full transformation, mate. Not even close to the same car. All right, let's put some bolts on. You know the funny thing about doing this? No dirt falls out of the car.
Don't play.
Oh yeah,
It's connected now.
all right, so the cab is on. It's secure. It's not going anywhere. It's in the place that it's going to stay for the rest of its life. And yeah, great milestone. I'm stoked to finally see it looking like a car again. It looks like a ute, officially a coil cab. So that's where we're going to leave it for now. Next episode, we're going to get this thing moving under its own power, and I'm keen for that as well, to be able to see it live again. So yeah, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you give it a like, get subscribed, leave any comments, let me know about things I've done, and yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.